Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 43, episode 12. That's right, I'm your host, Chris, and with me today for the very first time this season is a very special guest, a friend of the channel, someone that I have not spoken to in a minute, Chantel Francis from Realness. Chantel, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I can't wait to see what we disagree about throughout the season.
Yeah, I need someone to keep me in check because I feel like most people have been agreeing with me about everything so far. No, actually, we've had some great guests. There's been some different opinions on at different times. So it's been a lot of fun watching this season. And one of the things you can always be sure of with reality TV, Chantel, is that different people love different people and have got different takes. And that's what makes this fandom so fun to be a part of.
Absolutely. And, I've actually really been enjoying this season. Out of all like the new era seasons, this is definitely my favorite one. I don't know, like on a whole, if I like the direction that maybe Survivor's going. I'm a little bit more of a purist, as you know. I like the 39-day format. I don't like idols and trinkets and all that stuff. Like I like it basic. But I have to say that this season is been proving to be really fun to watch. And this week's episode it really made me enjoy Survivor. So I enjoyed this week. Absolutely.
This week's episode of Survivor is kind of, I think I saw someone put this, it was a previous Australian Survivor player, but I can't remember who it was. And they put on Twitter, they said that, pizza is good, but when it's really good, it's damn good. And it's kind of like that, like when Survivor's good, like almost nothing can beat it.
This was a really good, it was probably the best episode of the season, I would have to say. And it really reminded me of all the reasons why I love Survivor. It was an old school type episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. So just for everybody that's listening to this and who's in the live, Jake can't sadly be here this week because people might be wondering, where's Jake? Did you boot him for Chantel coming on this week? No, that's not the case. He's got some personal things going on. I believe it's his dad's birthday and he's spending some time away as well, which is fair, but he will be back to talk about the finale. And in some ways, I'm kind of relieved I don't get to talk to him because he'd probably be gloating because he's absolutely kicking my butt when it comes to the fantasy league for Survivor. And you'll have a laugh at my expense at the end when you see who I've got left, Chantel, getting into the end game here. But want to say hello to a few people here in the live. We've got Christian Gale, welcome back. Jay in the live, welcome. Tiana Hall as well, welcome to the live. And then Deanna Bean saying, hi, Chris and Chantel, I'm happy to see you guys together because I've loved both you guys on your own podcasts for Survivor all season long. And obviously, for those that are not aware, Chantel has been covering it. I believe Power Rankings with...
Power Rankings with Sarah, yes, on
Sarah from Nurtainment, right? So, yeah. So go check that out if you're interested in some more content. Who did you have in the Power Rankings as like the top, I guess, two people at this stage coming into this episode? Can you remember?
Last week, where is it? I might have my notebook somewhere. I think definitely Jesse. We got a 5 last week, and I gave Cody a 5 also. I think last week.
So that makes this episode even more interesting because it's the clash of the titans really when it gets to the end of this episode. But let's get into the episode from the start. We have 6 people left. They're on the beach. They've just done this move on Sammy. Sammy's gone out in a ball of fire. Tip my hat to him because at least he went out swinging instead of not playing that shot in the dark. Didn't work out for him. But because of this, Owen is a bit annoyed because they tried to wedge this or put this wedge in between Carla and Cassidy to get Carla to vote against Cassidy, but she got spooked, ended up voting in the right way here. But he still does a lot of good work here on the beach to continue to get Cassidy and Carla to go after each other by saying, hey, you don't have to worry about Cody Cassidy coming after you. Carla is actually the one that's trying to take shots.
I'm really surprised by how Carla has played these last few episodes because I gave Carla tons and tons and tons of credit up until now. She got 5s many weeks out from me and from Sarah and from the guests. Like she's definitely been doing really, really well. But she's kind of been taking the bait on a lot of things that I wouldn't think that she would take the bait on. And so I was really surprised that Sammy, who was like, who just voted her out and like just tried to lie about it to her, is now saying like, oh yeah, Cassidy was the one that threw your name out first. And she's just like gobbling it up. I'm just like, I thought that her assessments and her perception skills were a little bit better than that. And so I was quite surprised that Carla kind of got duped by Sammy.
The beginning of the season, I was same as you. It sounds like this is going to be the first thing we're going to agree on. But I was the same as you. I thought Carla was going to be the player of the season. Like, she read everything. She wasn't fooled by Cody, you know, when he came over and had to come steal stuff and try to get one over them. Like, she was really good at her reads from the beginning. And she's continued to go backwards in that. But I wonder if it has to do with the fact that, you know, her body's falling apart. Her mind's falling apart. She's been out there for a long time now. Everybody has got the same struggles, but everybody deals with that in a different manner. And she is starting to definitely unravel. And sadly, I mean, still a great player, still someone that I enjoyed seeing this season, but I'm surprised that some people still think that she could win the season, because I now firmly believe there's other people ahead of her. And we'll talk about that towards the end, who I think is still in the running. Even after this, I wouldn't even put Carla in the top 2 right now.
I don't think she's in the top 2 anymore. I think that after this would be the 3rd week that she kind of got duped in the vote. So yeah, I just don't think, and she lost her, I don't like, it's not good. So I don't think that she'll be able to win anymore, for the fact that the jury saw all of this. And it just makes her look like she didn't know what was going on. She got spooked once again. She played her idol when she didn't need to play it. Like, it just doesn't look great in the eyes of the jury, I think.
But she does give us great content this episode. I mean, we love Carla for the content, because she does end up having this conversation with Cassidy, and she, I forgot what she mentioned.
Telenovela.
Telenovela. Is that like a Latino
soap
opera? And I love how the producers, both times when she cries this episode, they play the music in the background.
Oh my God. The music was so, they were like probably just like eating it up. The fact that they're just like, like, and just like the way she's just explaining what's going on. No, it was fantastic. And I think that she's an excellent person that's been on this cast. She's been an excellent player up until the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks or so. And she definitely gives us great content. I love the whole telenovela bit. And I also really loved when she thought that Jesse was on her side. And like,
take a bow, Jesse. Take a freaking bow, Jesse, because he saw the smallest opportunity there, where she came to him and said, hey, can you let Cassidy know that I wasn't coming for her? And he's like, no, I'm going to do the exact opposite, because I want that rift to be there. He's such a sneaky, conniving player. And I love it. I love everything about Jesse. He is like the modern day villain that we've been asking for a while. Like, I feel like we haven't. A lovable modern day villain, because obviously he's playing a game. He's not a villain in real life, but I'm enjoying seeing this villainous everyone but me type of attitude that he has.
It's shocking though how bold he is. Like, it's kind of like, you know, if Jesse is going to cry about his family in confessional, he's going to be ruthless. Like, he's going through with it. Like, we know his now. Like, I'm doing it for my family. I'm going to suck back this emotion, and I am going for blood here. I really didn't think that he was even good. I was like, really? You're immediately going to go and just tell Cassidy the opposite? Like, this could so easily blow back on Jesse, but it doesn't. He's really bold. It's really exciting, in my opinion, to watch. There's a lot of people that are kind of coming down on him, being like, oh, like, that's such a dirtbag move and all this stuff. And I'm like,
this is not Survivor Season 1. Like, we're watching Survivor Season 43. Exactly. What show are you guys watching? Like, there's been so much worse that has happened on the show. This is the kind of things, like, if this move didn't happen, what were we going to talk about? You know what I mean? Like, if they didn't do this, it
would have been Cody. We'd be talking about Cody duping Carla.
Yeah, I've heard some opinions about Cody as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as we continue down this recap, because I feel like you might have some strong opinions about that as well. But I do want to sort of talk about Jesse. You said he's doing it for his family. He's playing this extra devious game. If Jesse were to win this season, do you think that he could replicate this gameplay again? Would he be as hungry to win again for his family if he's already got $1 million?
I think that this is his motivation to do whatever it takes to be able to win. I don't know if it's like, if he can do it again, because people will know his game. And I'm just not sure if he could do it a second time. Or if he, like, I think for him, it's the motivation to make these ruthless, cutthroat moves. And he's doing it because he wants to win for his family. If he doesn't have that motivation, I don't know if he's going to make all those moves that would give him the prestige to be able to win the game. So I'm not saying that he couldn't, because he's obviously very smart. People seem to really want to work with him. A lot of people trust them, and even after he takes out his closest all of his allies, like, people still want to work with him and trust him. So that is something that will translate from into a next season, but I'm just not sure if his motivation will, and so I don't know if he'll make all the moves that he would need to make to win a second time.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm sort of questioning, is the motivation, and then obviously capped with the fact that he's going to be one of the most ruthless winners we've seen in a while. I think that if he does come back in the short term, it's going to be nothing but pain. But want to say hello to a few more people here. Georgette Sparkles, welcome back to the live stream. The Fairy Tiger Wolf says, hey, Chris, hey, Chantel, incredible episode. It's going to be an amazing finale. I agree with that. Deanna been saying, I think she may be out next if Jesse uses his idol, but only because Owen, Gabler, and Cassidy will still view her as a threat, and that's for Carla. I see that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think that when Carla, her face after everything went down with Cody and Jesse, she was like, I think her face said to me that she just lost the game. Yeah, that's what it said to me. I mean, she could obviously win immunity. That's a very high possibility. I feel like no matter what, people are going to force her to make fire. If she's there, but if she doesn't win immunity, I do think that they will be like, Carla's got to go.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, at the moment, she is a massive threat, and she's also falling apart physically. So that makes it harder for her to win anything that's physical when it comes to the immunities. So she's going to have to hope for certain types of immunities heading into the end. And you do know that Survivor likes to mix it up with not just puzzle mental stuff. So I think that's going to definitely, I feel like there's a reason they're showing us her body falling apart in the way that they're doing it. So I feel like that will come back.
So if it's the same as the most recent seasons, there's going to be on this new beach an advantage or some sort for this final immunity, correct?
Yes.
So maybe it will actually help her, whatever this advantage is, and so maybe she will win it.
And Cody's not there anymore. He's the one who bloody found all these advantages on the beach. So I think that anybody's got a chance at actually getting it. Christian here brings up a great point, and kind of skips ahead, but that's the way it goes on this podcast sometimes. But Jesse and Gabler has no votes against him so far.
I feel like Gabler does.
He doesn't. I checked it beforehand, and also because of the draft that I do, I have to check
Ellie didn't vote for him ever?
No. So
because he was safe that time.
Yeah. He's the assassin hiding in plain sight, Chantel. People are not realizing that he's the assassin hiding in plain sight.
So I did a draft with Danny McRae, and we did it with Nerdtainment, and he chose Gabler as his first pick, and we heckled him. We said, what are you doing? And he explained his rationale, that he's like, if he gets through the first couple of votes, he's going to be able to get to the end, and it's possible for him to make a case for himself to win. And we're like, no way, Gabler's out first. And so I don't know, right now it's looking like we might eat our words, because I think Danny's winning our draft.
I think this is jumping ahead, but I my order of who's going to win this season, Jesse's number 1, Gabler's number 2 at this point. Like, that's where I see him sitting. I really think he's got a shot. I really think if Jesse gets taken out by Gabler in a fire-making challenge, or he votes him out, I think Gabler's got a shot. He doesn't beat Jesse in a final. I'm not too sure how he does against Cassidy, but I feel like Gabler, from an edit perspective, we've seen him play the game. We've seen his thoughts consistently. We've seen him know where the threats are, where the bodies are buried, So I feel like he could put a case together. Plus, there was that quote that he had in the beginning of the season, Chantel, where he said, there's only been one ever winner in the history of Survivor that was older than 50. I'm going to have to play the game differently if I want to win this game, because there hasn't been that many. So that quote could come back, and it could be a famous quote at the end. Like, I still want Jesse to win because I feel like he deserves it the way he's been playing. But I feel like if Gabler does make a move, or he gets in the right scenario, I would never have said this in the beginning of the season. I thought he was the class clown in the beginning.
I know. I really didn't think that his game was going to go this way. And now I wonder, though, if the reason why he's people have been allowing him to know what's going on each week is because they don't think of him as a threat. I had that same feeling originally this season about Sammy, and then he kind of convinced me that he knew what was going on, and then I was like, okay, no, he didn't actually. He knew what was going on, but nobody really took him seriously. So I'm like, okay, so Sammy wasn't a mastermind. Like, people were just kind of humoring him and allowing him to come along, similar to the Xander effect. So I'm also wondering, though, if Gabler has that effect where people don't really think that he is a threat to win. That's why they're not really targeting him. So that's just something to put out there. I totally hear your points.
Yeah,
But
the one like counter argument to my thinking at this stage is that episode where he actually won the immunity and he was out there for so long and he was telling all these different stories and you could see people
rolling
just
their eyes.
eye rolling and just hating every minute of it. And I was like, okay, maybe they won't respect him, but I do feel like he could be that guy that says the end, like, listen, I struggled to connect with a lot of people that were like 20 or 30 years younger than me. There were certain things I know that like, if he shows awareness of that, and if he shows that this is how I had to play the game, to always be in the numbers, to always know where the moves were going to go, until I found the opportunity to make a move. Marianne showed us, you only need to make one massive, massive move to get the credit at the end. And that is taking out the Omar of the season, who now would be Jesse after Cody was taken out. So I think we could be in for a bumpy and exciting ride at the end here. I know there's a lot of people who still believe Cassidy is winning this thing as well.
Wait, where did that come from? I mean, I really like Cassidy. She did have, you probably remember better than I do, but a sound bite earlier on the season saying that, she's going to hide right now,
like
and then she's going to come out later. Yeah,
she's
something
like a
like
fox.
that.
Yeah.
So that could be, a little bit part of her winner's edit, but I think she's lovely. And I'm impressed by her doing well in immunity challenges, but I just don't see her steering these votes. I don't see her like taking control. She's surviving. Cool. Like, that's amazing that you're able to survive week after week after week. But like, why aren't you in a better position? So yeah, I personally don't see her as being awarded the win by this particular group of people.
So this is an interesting conversation, and sorry, Chad, I see all the chats. I'm going to read it in a minute. I want to get back to it, but I love what you've just brought up. You don't see Cassidy in the driver's seat right now. She's not making the moves, and I wonder if that has to do with the fact that her storyline has been, let's keep the girls together. Let's make sure a woman wins this thing at the end, and that's been one of the big negatives online. A lot of people on Twitter and Reddit and that have not been happy about the fact that so many women have left very early on. Now, my take on that personally, Chantel, is that I don't mind if this happens sometimes. Sometimes the guys will go first, sometimes the woman will go first.
It will not happen in these small tribes, though, right? Because like, if you're going to want to keep your tribe strong, like, chances are people are going to value male strength over female strength in a 6-person tribe. Sorry.
Well, it's interesting you say that, though, because we've had 2 female winners with the smaller tribes so far. So I mean, the counter has happened in the new era up until now, but it could still be. I mean, we're very it's early days in this new era, so we might still end up with 5 or 6 male winners in a row. Who knows? So I'm not willing to say that you're wrong or you're right in this case, but we've seen the counter happen. And I think what's interesting for me is I like seeing variety. Like, it's sad to see people leave in succession in the way that they did, but I can also see why so many women this season have been their own downfall in the game. There's been a few that have just played the game wrong at the wrong time and they've left. But I do think, the whole thing about Cassidy not having power in the game, when you see so many men around her right now and she's this younger little girl there, how many men are going to check their egos and listen to Cassidy or want to go in her direction? So she's also in a position where she can't do much. But the reason I bring this up is because she's been very aware that they've been taking out women. So she could go to the end and say, listen, and she could appeal to Janine or a Carla or a Noelle if they're sitting on the jury to say, I try to keep you. I try to have kind of like the Sandra Diaz-Twine effect. I try to take out Russell, but you guys didn't listen to me. And then they actually ended up voting for Sandra Diaz-Twine because she tried to take Russell out. So I'm just making a counter argument. I think it's a little bit harsh. Like, I mean, maybe in a different season, Cassidy would have had more agency, but I feel like the way the chips have fallen this season with the people around her, the Codys of this world was never going to listen to her, I don't think.
Absolutely not. And also, if you think about the jury, is made up of people that already didn't like her. So James didn't really appreciate her. Ryan didn't appreciate her. So it's already 2 votes that she's most likely not going to be getting. And if she's sitting beside, Jesse, we know that there's no chance there. I think she would have the best chance if she's sitting beside a Carla and maybe a Gabler, where maybe votes might be split around and she might be able to sneak out a win. I just don't see the majority of these men who she didn't ever work with or strategize that much with. I just don't see them giving her their vote over anybody else left in the game. Maybe
Yeah.
Owen. Maybe Owen. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I was gonna say Owen is dead in the water at this stage in my mind.
Hey, this is
Unless
my
he
last
does.
person on my draft. Stop.
Hey, we've got something in common. He's my last person in my draft, so we're agreeing on a lot more than what we're
I had
disagreeing at the moment.
such high hopes for Owen. Oh my goodness.
Same. It's been nothing but pain this season for me when it comes to the draft. But I want to go back to a few of the lives here. Zuduman, welcome to the live. Diva, welcome back to the live as well. Jay says, I would say probably not, but we did see Jeremy come back and do it for his family 2 times. This is in regards to Jesse if he was to come back. But Jeremy didn't win the first time.
Exactly the first time. Yeah.
So he still had that hunger. Zuduman says, I hope she wins Final 5 immunity. And that's Carla, obviously. And Jesse uses his idol for good TV. Yeah.
Well, someone was saying, I want to hear what your thoughts are about this. This is to support our final guy, Owen, to win this game. So what if he wins that final immunity and he gives his necklace to somebody else? He makes fire and takes out, say, a Jesse or a Carla or somebody, a bigger dog than he is. Do you think that would be impressive and have like the Chris Underwood effect of it all?
I think that it's a little bit harder for me with Owen because I want to believe that Owen can win this game because that gives me hope that I still have a chance in the draft. But the problem for me with Owen is I feel like Chris Underwood, people underestimate how likable he was with his rest of his tribe, and also the fact that he had that time on the edge to bond with people that were going to vote. Fair. I don't think Owen gets to the end in any way at this stage and wins based on one move because there's been moments where you've seen him get agitated with people in the tribe, like him and James having conflict, for instance. And I just don't think he's a likable guy, but I don't think he's as likable as Chris Underwood was. Chris Underwood, the win and how he won always be contentious, but I can see how he won, at least. At this stage, for me, I just don't see any. I don't see any hope for Owen in regards to who does he sit next to, where people are going to be like, yeah, I like Owen more than that person, and he did more this game. I feel like, again, like I said, if Gabler gets to the end, I feel like Gabler and Owen next to each other, Gabler gets the votes. I feel like he's the one who sort of dragged Owen to the end with him in some ways, and kept him in the loop in regards to this is how we get to the Final 4. This is how we work together. And Owen has already admitted himself to the camera, I'm not winning this game because I've done nothing. So he just doesn't even believe in himself.
I mean, Owen, though, I think, like I've said this a couple times, that I think his big mistake was in the very beginning that he allowed Ellie and Janine to take the fall for when Sammy let them know about the whole bag search thing. I think that he needed to have stood with Janine and Ellie at that point, at least let them know what was going on and keep those numbers in there. I think that he kept silent and he knew everything that was going on. I really think that he needed to preserve some numbers there and have some loyalty there with those two women who I don't think would have turned on him. And I think he would have had a little bit more agency in the game. So I think that his downfall started about like his first tribe with Baka.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Ellie didn't really have a high opinion of Owen either. She said he was the older son, but the one that couldn't look after himself, that she had to mother the whole time, where Sammy was younger, but he was more, out there on his own 2 feet. So even that was like some of his biggest allies. They weren't like too fond of certain behaviors or things at camp. I don't know if we see all of it on screen always, basically from our end.
Yeah, but I think, though, they were willing to talk to him about votes, right? They were willing to like bring him into things that were going on. They thought that he was going to be somebody that would help protect them, and they're going to stay Baka strong, all that stuff. And so I wish that he didn't allow that wedge to get between them or as much with Gabler, because I think that Ellie going out was the beginning of the end for him.
I agree with that. And I would have loved for Ellie to continue. I actually quite enjoyed her
fantastic.
confessionals. I enjoyed her confessionals as well. Deanna Bean here says, Jeff pointing out that Jesse has yet to win an immunity makes me think that
win. Mm-hmm.
Makes me think that he will win the last immunity or lose the last, but win the show without ever winning a challenge. That could be an interesting one, because I feel like it's been a minute since we've seen someone. Did Marianne win an individual immunity? Yes, she did win an individual immunity last season, right?
I don't remember if Marianne, I think she won one. I don't know how deep into the game it was, but what I'm actually thinking, just kind of piggyback on that thought, was what if Jesse does win this final 5 immunity, and then he does the Marianne surprise. I had the Baka yellow bead. Sorry, Janine. I got this. I didn't
I had
even
an
need to
insurance
use
policy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
would be good.
always knew I wasn't going home. Like that. I mean, we already know that if he's sitting in the final three, like we're with or without that, he's
winning.
gonna win.
He's gonna win. Yeah.
How like people are just gonna be mouth dropped. Like what?
Yeah.
We never...
Well, it's interesting, because Dwight's not on the jury, so he's not.
Anybody.
Yeah, so no one knows this. This would be such an absolute mic drop moment if this happens.
Absolutely, more than Marianne's even, because like
I kind of want this to happen now.
Of course you do. I mean, it's either going to happen that he doesn't win and he's going to play it like next tribal, but if he does win and then he just saves it for his final speech, like woo. Or uses it at 4, I guess. Oh, no, fire, it takes out whoever loses. So, yeah.
The Fairy Tiger here says, if Jesse loses fire and Carla gets voted out next, how do you think the final tribal council voting plays out between Owen, Cassidy, and Gabler? I personally am of the opinion, and I gave that away already, I think Gabler wins in that scenario. I think, and that's the scenario I see Gabler winning in, is between those 3 players. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you think Cassidy's got a chance against Gabler? Because I don't think Owen's in it.
I don't think Cassidy has a chance. I think she might be a no-vote finalist. And I think it's the fact that there's not that many people that are going to support her game over the other people that would be in that final 3. I'm wondering if Owen can play like, I've been an underdog this whole season. I've been just trying to survive here. I've won immunities when it counted. And when my neck was on the line, I was able to stay in. Like, he might be able to play that card, being like, I did what this game is all about. And that's called survive. You know, he could maybe whip it up into something quite, really delicious, like look what he's talking about with the peanut characters. Like that was fun. If he figures out some sort of amazing analogy that people connects with people's heartstrings, I wouldn't be surprised if he could squeeze out a couple of votes, because I don't know if people are that excited to vote for Gabler, to have Gabler represent the entire season. I just don't know. I'm not sure.
Hey, if Gabler represents this season, myself and Jake said this season's going to be memorable for many seasons, because one of the things that for me is very evident is that when we get to season 52, who's going to remember season 43 or 45 or 42? Because there's no theme, there's nothing special that makes it pop out in your mind anymore.
Checklist is pretty good.
Checklist?
Remember Jesse's checklist?
Yes.
His blindside checklist?
Yes, I do remember it, but again, it took a couple of seconds to trigger what you were talking about.
Wait,
so
what do you mean?
Jesse would be a great winner as well. Jesse would be a great winner as well. I'm not
gonna... Oh, sorry, you're thinking probably that I was talking about something with Gabler. Sorry, that's why you didn't connect.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking Gabler, because it'd be such a mind, it's kind of like how people remember Fabio's win. You know what I mean? Like, everybody still remembers it. It's like it was one of the crazier ones that was ever out there.
I don't actually remember. I misremember his hair, but I don't remember his
I remember him being out of every single vote, not understanding what was going on for half of the time, and getting to the end and winning the show. Like, it was amazing. So, so I think it'll be memorable. Maybe, you're right. They want it to be seen as a top tier season with a top tier winner, and that could play into their heads when they go and vote at the end. So it could still sway them in either way. And I don't know if Owen is that person yet. So it'll be interesting to see if, how it goes. I just haven't seen the evidence, but one thing about Owen is he is consistently getting an edit. Like, he's consistent. Even in the beginning of this episode, he's the first person to talk and narrate what happened the previous night, what he's needing to do. And that has been confusing because he does consistently. There's been people who have won this show with half of his edit.
Absolutely. And I really think something to do with, like, he did get a soundbite that could be a winner's edit soundbite where it's talking about he wanted to have the necklace around his neck, and like he just part of like he just needs to have that happen, and he's had it happen twice now. And I just feel like, because he's such a super fan, I could see him winning for whatever reason. And like what I've been noticing that they've been doing this season for sure, and in the previous New Era seasons, is that they don't give us all the information. They like a surprise. And I'm wondering if we'll get a surprise, like Owen had a little bit more to do with the season than we were shown. So
yeah. They do that quite a lot now, and they did it even in this episode, and we'll talk about that. Zuderman says, honestly, I feel like Jesse and his story would be an amazing, memorable one, because he does have an amazing story. So, yeah, Jesse definitely, and that's why, again, I'm between Jesse and Gabler. That's kind of where I'll put my flag down. I've been wrong a lot this season, so hopefully I'm not wrong for both those guys' sake, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. So let's talk a little bit about the reward challenge here. They had an obstacle course race that they had to run through. They had one of the classic challenges with that big ball, someone being inside of it. And then the people who are pushing it are blindfolded, and then they have to do a table maze to win it. Two teams. The blue team had Owen, Cody, and Carla. The red team had Jesse, Gabler, and Cassidy. And finally, Cody does get to go on to a reward. Owen, Cody, and Carla, they win this. And he goes pretty ham on the caffeine, and he says it does terrible things to the body, or great things to the body after so long of not having coffee. Are you a big caffeine lover, Chantel?
No, I can't. If I have like a sip of coffee, I have like the shakes. So like, I'm definitely not a coffee person. I drink a tea every day, and I know people say like, oh, tea has more caffeine than coffee does, but I do not get the same reaction to tea than I do from coffee. So
yeah,
I'm not a coffee person. If I was on Survivor having coffee and sugar, I would be like doing cartwheels. I'd be speaking a mile a minute. Like I would be acting wild. So
kind of like Cody was. Like he was on another planet after this. It was funny seeing him and Gabler next to each other when he was like, moving around, saying he's feeling on top of the world, and Gabler's like, yeah, I'm not feeling that, but good for you, buddy.
He's gonna crash hard. I mean, I know that they probably want to give like things that taste really good, and maybe they want them to have these sugar highs and caffeine highs, but like give them some nutrients. Come on, guys. Like like at least maybe give them the option. Do you want sweet or savory? Do you want
protein? Like I want like chicken or something.
Yeah, I don't eat meat, but like I'd eat meat for like a reward if I haven't eaten anything in 3 weeks. So I wouldn't want a Danish, definitely. I'm not really a sweet person. But...
I can only imagine what coffee would do to you after such a long time of not having it. I'm caffeine addicted. I drink 3-4 cups of coffee a day, easy. So for me to go out there, like for me, I would probably get the shakes day 2 into it if I don't have coffee. So I think by the time you get to that, it'll be such a detox to the body. I can see how that plays with your mind. It's interesting how they don't really do too much like beer or like wine challenges or things like that where they give them alcohol after this amount of time, because we've seen some pretty memorable and funny scenes of people getting very drunk. I'm thinking of The Godfather on, I forgot his name now, on David versus Goliath. He was in that season and he had like a couple and he was just gone.
I don't remember who that is either, but I do find it fun when they get a little tipsy out there. It's like
he was gone after like half a glass, so so that would be a bit of a trip for sure. But again,
I also wonder why they don't do. I feel like they did it originally in Survivor US, but I've definitely seen it recently in Survivor Australia, where they do the whole. I don't remember Carl right now. Black guy.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember him now? Was it?
Almost. I'm mixing his face up with someone else, but I think I know who he is.
Yeah, I'll get it up for you in a second while you talk.
No, well, when they have those challenges where like they have that whole sweets factory or like the donut shop, and like they have to go in and they can eat as much as they want, but there's also an advantage hidden. Okay, that's who I was picturing actually.
That's Carl. That was a funny scene. That was such a funny scene, and just there's been many in the past, but yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah, so I would have liked to see one of those instead of just being like there's an advantage in the forest, go. I did like when you see the people eating the spaghetti and then they find the clue on the bottom of the spaghetti bowl, or like when it's at the bottom of the bonbons, like whatever. Like I do actually enjoy.
They do that challenge every single season in Australian Survivor.
Is that where I'm always seeing it? And
every single
season. Never
season.
Been in Survivor US or no?
No, it has been in the US, but it's been the US is a little bit more sporadic with what they do and when they introduce it and when they bring it back and things like that. But with Australia, I feel like you can be guaranteed there's going to be that big bowl of spaghetti challenge.
I find it fun. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun. But a lot of people also know that it's coming, and they're because everybody's super fans now, so they'll all try and get in first, and they know whoever's going to go first most likely is going to get the advantage. So Deanna here says, In an exit interview, Cody said that the caffeine and sugar ruined his game because he was up all night and couldn't contain his energy. He also stopped drinking coffee 2 weeks before to prepare. So that's crazy. And I think you kind of have to weed yourself off it a little bit, because when you don't drink caffeine, and you won't know this, Chantel, the first couple of days or even like 2 weeks,
Headaches,
you'll have headaches, massive headaches. Yeah, because your body just rejects not having caffeine. So you can imagine with Cody, he's already high and very energetic without it. Drinking that, he probably was overthinking. He came up with a brilliant plan, and we'll talk about that. But then maybe he was just on such a high that he didn't see the flaws in his plan because he had so much caffeine in his body.
Or being able to read the room appropriately, because his mind is just racing, that he's not like on a chill level to be able to really see what's going on and suss it out.
Yeah. Dolores says, hi there, Cody has a classic sugar high. And then Sandy says, season 35, do that on Spaghetti Bowl, I think. And Zudaman, for real, they should do more clue reading out loud, and go moments. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about at this reward, they had, again, it was Owen, Cody, and Carla. They had an opportunity to strategize together. Owen sees this as a key moment in his game because now he can talk to Cody and Carla about how to get into the final three. It just so happens, again, Owen is connecting with the people that are in the outs. That's been a theme for him this season. And he's trying to make this alliance with two people that potentially could be going next. But Carla has another moment of crying and letting people know she's had this idol, rumors around it, but
The
she doesn't
burden
have it.
of the rumor.
The burden. And Cody kind of believes it. She's kind of fooling him in this spot here. It's only when Cody goes back to camp and Cassidy lets it slip. She definitely has an idol that he actually knows that she doesn't. So she clearly did a pretty good job with it.
But this is the thing, is that did she have to do that? I mean, I don't know. I'm wondering why she feels as though her and Cassidy are still close, right? Because if she did believe Sammy, and Sammy said that Cassidy was the one that originally threw out her name, and that she was originally kind of going to be going for Cassidy before she switched her vote at Tribal, like, isn't there a rift between them? And so the fact that she doesn't think that Cassidy has said anything or would protect her secret at this point, I think there was also a miscalculation. I think that she was just having too much fun, and like,
I think she was just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And I think in her mind, she was like, I just need to survive this one vote with my idol in my pocket, then I'm guaranteed final four. And that's another thing for me, that for Survivor US, I kind of feel like the idols are too overpowered, because when you look at, I'm pretty sure it's both Australian and Survivor South Africa, you can only play an idol until final 6, not final 5. And I feel like final 5 is just that one step too far in the game where it gives it too much power when there's so many idols and advantages still in play. I mean, going into this episode, we had 3 people with idols still in their pocket, or 3 idols still in the game.
Yeah.
Potentially 3 idols heading into a final 5 scenario, which would mean 2 people would be vulnerable. That's just too much.
I mean, obviously it was like a shocking moment when Advantage Geddon took out Suri.
Yeah.
But like obviously there's a wow moment, but like, I hated it. Like, I was like, get these advantages out of here. This woman is playing an excellent game, and she's just getting out on for the fact that she didn't have an advantage that she hoarded for like 3 weeks. So I'm not a big fan of having advantages not expire sooner. I forced them to use it. Like,
I like the Gabler idol that he got in the beginning of the game, where it's like it's going to last for 3 tribal councils,
sure,
or there's some sort of a limitation that sort of balances it out for you.
So people will use it as part of their strategy. Yeah. And so, like, if people are going to have these idols, especially if they're going to be idols that you most likely are going to tip somebody off that you have, in the new era, it seems like you can't have a hidden immunity idol anymore. It has to be like a well-known immunity idol, because they really want that knowledge is power advantage to work. But I just feel as though they need to reconfigure how these idols are working, because I want to see them used. I want to see them for gameplay. I don't want to see people holding on to it for the entire season and then using that as like, I didn't even need this idol. Like, yeah, I would use it if it was me, but I wish that they would use it in the game as part of their strategy, not as just like a wow moment at the final tribal.
Yeah. Dolores here says, wasn't it final 5 in SA when did Mark use his last one? I think it was final 6 in SA from memory. And Mark, that's a good question. I kind of feel like it was Final Six when he played his idol as well, but don't quote me on it. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments if they do a quick Survivor Wiki search if I'm right or not. And then Jay here says, I think they're trying to help a big player who's played a good game like a Jesse get to Final 3 because they have idols at final at 5+. They also introduce an advantage in the challenge Final 5, Final 4 fire. Yeah, it's just I don't like forced gameplay because it does not work. Like, I mean, if you look at Marianne and Erica as winners, Marianne was a big character last season, but I don't think, in my mind, she was a big player up until the point where she took out Omar. And I don't think that they designed it in a way where it's like we want Marianne to benefit from this, or we want a Erica type of winner to benefit from it, but yet those winners are still winning. They're still finding a way to win. One of the things survivors need to realize, or Jeff needs to realize, is it's very difficult to manipulate who you want to win in the game if you truly want to stay neutral in the game, because you're going to have over the top winners, you're going to have under the radar winners, and that's again comes down to what I said earlier. I like to see variety. Like, do I want to see only under the radar winners win? No. Do I like seeing it every now and again? Yes, because I like diversity in food as well. You know, I don't like to eat chicken every day. I like to have beef. You know, I like to have some different things, you know.
Sometimes I'm a creature of habit, though, and I don't mind watching the same thing over and over again, or eating the same thing over and over again. You know, I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of Marianne and Erica's game, unfortunately, because we didn't really get to see it, and I'm here for the strategy. I'm not here for. And I'm okay. Yes, the wow moment is part of the strategy in the end with Marianne's win, and I thought she deserved the win with how she played that final tribal. Absolutely,
Yeah.
but like if I want to be on the journey with the winner, that's why like Jesse would be a really satisfying winner, is because
you feel like you've been
watching him evolve. We've been watching like, oh my God, was that good for him to take out like that player? And oh, should he have done that? Like, we've been questioning all of his moves, and then he's making two of the biggest moves of the season. Like, I want to see that gameplay be rewarded, not somebody that hid and then used an idol as a flashy moment. So obviously anybody that wins deserves to win in their own right, but the gameplay that I like watching and that I want to dissect and like I want to know, okay, did that work? Like, it's going to be more of a game like Jesse's. And I hope it gets rewarded, but those games don't always get rewarded. It's kind of like Ricard, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so Nunez here says, Nunez says, hi, Chris and Chantal, joined late, but great to be a part of the live. We've still got quite a bit to talk about, so, you know, welcome to the live. And Zudaman says here, same Chantal, I do only like Marianne's though, because she at least made a move, and they says in capitals, thank you for that comment. And I agree with you. Like, I want to be a part of the journey. It's one of the reasons why the Erica win to me is still perplexing.
Like, what happened?
It's like, with Marianne, at least she was a big character throughout the season. You know, she was someone that you sort of saw their journey throughout until she made that move. But with Erica, you know, that's why I say there's people that have had less than an edit than Owen that have won, because Erica would be one of those people. Like, she's had less of an edit than even Owen at this stage. But, you know, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. But they do go back to camp, like I said, obviously. And there's a bit of that conversation happening about the idol and the fact that both Cody and Carla has an idol. Gabler has a very key moment here, and this is the reason why I still think Gabler could win this season, because we continue to see him, and he is the one who plants the seed at camp with Cassidy and both Jesse that, listen, maybe our best move, and I don't know if it really is Gabler's best move. So if Gabler does go to the end with Jesse, that's a horrible move for him. He will lose, but he needs to break up Jesse and Cody. He needs to break up Carla and Cassidy, and he plants that seed. He says, listen, if we get to the end, we should take each other, because at least we all three have had very different journeys to get to the end. And you know that that is an important thing for players to take into consideration when they get to the end. How are they going to differentiate their game from their closest ally? And it makes Jesse think he may need to take a shot at Cody at some stage, because Cody is the one that is louder than him. He's the one that's been the bigger personality, where he's been pulling the strings behind the scenes. Now, for us as viewers, I've always said Jesse is the brains in the operation. He's the one who's made the moves. But out there, perception is reality. And I think that people may have thought Cody is the one who did this. So I want to talk first about Gabler planting the seed. This is the this is the thing for me, what makes Gable a better player than what we realize. And I think sometimes we underestimate him because he was seen as a bit of a class clown at the beginning of the season, but that was due to the perception of players that are no longer in the game. So I think he's got a chance.
It's true. I mean, I definitely think that it was really a strong move for him to point out, like, hey, it's 2-2-2. Like, we're all here. We have a similar gameplay to the people that we've been, in the game with since the beginning. And so, yeah, I thought it was really great to point out. But unless he takes out Jesse's the one that made the move there. Like,
Yeah.
Gabler gave him the idea, gave him like the thought, like, oh wait, yeah, you're right. I have to get rid of Jesse or get rid of Cody soon, because if it happens and I end up going out, like, Jesse could take the win from me, or if I'm sitting beside him, he's a little bit flashier than him. So, Cody might take this win from me, and I need to do this for my family. So, as much as like I thought it was a smart move, and it probably saved Gabler to a certain extent, I do think it helped propel Jesse into making like the game-winning move of the season.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to actually help out Gabler other than just last episode.
I don't think Gabler in his mind wants to take Jesse to the end. I think that the Survivor editors have set up the Gabler versus Jesse fight for a while now, that it's going to come to an end, because he's been saying we need to be careful of Jesse. He's playing a really good game, and that's happened for a few episodes now. But Jesse has not noticed Gabler yet. He hasn't said anything about Gabler, so he could still be that assassin that slips in, poisons the chalice that the king drinks from, and then slips out the back door without anyone knowing. And then he gets to the end, Jesse's not there, and he says, listen, I know Jesse made the move and it was a fabulous move, but Jesse, do you remember that conversation we had at camp where I said we needed to split from our allies? I started planting that seed, and I let it sort of sprout into this tree. I think there is a case for him to be made there. The problem is just if he sits next to Jesse, that's not going to be it for him. I don't think he wins, and I think both you and I can agree on that. And at this point, Jesse win, most satisfying win. 100% agree with that.
Absolutely.
I think we've been with from the start. But if Jesse does get taken out in that fashion, you have to give credit to Gabler for playing a pretty masterful game as well. And the editors showed us that for a reason. They could have left that out. It could have only been Jesse's plan.
That's true. They left it in. They left it in. I'm wondering though, with your chalice analogy, are you trying to get to be part of like the final tribal here? With like, it seems as though you need to have an amazing analogy to be part of the season. So, is that the one that you would use in your audition video?
I don't know. I've not even thought about which one I would use, but Jeff he's been on another level with his analogies this season. It's more about the analogies than the actual gameplay. And it's so funny seeing people this was the first, did you notice? Because I watched this episode twice. And I noticed that this tribal council, they didn't have those
analogies.
It was
great. It was good. It was compelling. I was like, oh, this is good.
Do you think Jeff has noticed the comments and the criticism? And he's like, just cut out all of the analogy stuff this time and show that I actually do ask hard-hitting strategical questions, because people were saying, where's all the strategical questions?
I don't know. I think I'm thinking that the reason why he's been doing these analogy things is because it pumps him up. He loves the monster. He loves it. Like, he loves like getting involved with the lore and the story and how to win and how amazing Survivor is. Like, he loves getting into that. But there was just so much real content that was going to go on that he didn't need to have all those bells and whistles in order for what he believes to have a captivating tribal council. So the last one was just so good. Like, I was like, oh, I don't hate tribal council. I will watch this one. It's quite compelling and interesting. I want to see how people are responding here. I actually don't know what's going to actually go on here. Oh my God, Jesse, are you really going to be like, oh man, I'm going to go use my best friend's idol on Owen? Like, what? Like, you can't analogy your way out of that moment, So I think he realized
brilliant
he had
tribal council. Brilliant tribal council. And maybe it is because there's been some slower tribal councils where people just haven't been giving him anything and they go on this tangent. But I always point to the international survivors and I say Survivor South Africa is always on fire tribal council. Australian Survivor is on fire tribal council. So you can get really, really good content from that as well. If you just focus on the game more so than trying to create this additional narrative that everybody tries to please them. Like, I mean, Cody had the whole thing with the surf and the waves. Was it kind of like a wave, Cody, where it was like coming in and out of the tide?
And counterfeit money and holding up to see if the cat, like, and then what was Cassidy's? They showed a necklace, I think. I can't remember what Cassidy's was, but like,
it's been too many this season. It's hard to keep track of all of them. But We do get to the immunity challenge. The immunity challenge is an interesting one. There's been no immunity challenge beasts this season, Chantel, because we get Cassidy winning this one. They have to run through an obstacle course and then build a hanging puzzle. It's always one of my favorites because it's a difficult puzzle to put together. Cassidy wins this one. It's a second one for the season, making her equal, I believe, with the two other people that have won too, which I can't remember at the top of my head now.
Owen has
Cody and Owen, I think. Cody and Owen, maybe.
Has Cody?
Carla,
Oh, okay.
Carla, Owen, and Cassidy. Those are the three players that have won two each. But again, exciting because there's no out and out immunity winners this season. It seems like one of the more competitive seasons when it comes to challenge wins.
I love when there's no comp beast. Like I like when somebody unassuming wins some power here. And so yeah, I thought it was like great that she won, and I thought it was also really interesting how close Cody was. Like, if Cody had just said maybe like check, because Cassidy was saying check while she was still feeding in the piece. And so I wonder if Cody had started saying check, if they would just have gone to him first and they would have seen him put the final piece in before Cassidy. So that 1 second, he's going to be kicking himself for that, I'm sure, because it was very, very close. Obviously we didn't see like a side-by-side split screen, but like it seemed like they were both done at the same time.
Yeah. Nunez here says, or our Nunez says, Cassidy winning immunity threw a wrench into some people's plans because they were going to split the vote between Carla and Cassidy. But this obviously means when they go back to camp here, Chantel, there's only a few people that could potentially go home. It's Jesse, it's Owen, and it is Gabler. And it's quite interesting because in this scenario, Cody comes up with a brilliant plan because they want to try and get Carla out. And he says to Carla, listen, I've got an idol. Come clean with me. I know you've got one. She comes clean. They're like, let's bluff it. Both of us say we're going to play it, but then we are guaranteed that we can keep our idols and go into the final four. And it's a great plan. Now, I know we can be critical of Carla of being bamboozled here, but it kind of makes sense because it's in Cody's best interest to try and keep his idol, and it's also in Carla's best interest. And I think at this point, she's just waiting for someone to throw her a life raft. She's out in the ocean. She's busy drowning, and she needs someone to help her get to the side. And Cody is that knight in shining armor that gives her an out here, and she does bite it hook, line, and sinker. So I thought great gameplay by Cody. If obviously the next didn't happen.
It was a great idea from Cody, absolutely. And Carla, though, I think that she should have maybe had second thoughts about maybe being part of that, because I would be thinking, why would somebody, like, even though he was being truthful, why would somebody want me to not use my idol this round? Why? And so I just don't know if I would have bought that. And I think that she just wanted to buy that because she wanted to be able to keep her idol. And so I think that she should have maybe had a little bit more discernment with like the timing in the game and who it was coming from. And I think that she should have maybe decided on her own plan instead of going through with this thing with Cody.
Should she have double bluffed it and told Cody, listen, I love your plan. I think this is an amazing plan that we're going to play we're going to pretend like we're going to play our idols and we don't play it. But I may have to follow through with that. It's not because I don't trust you. It's just there's a lot of heat on me right now. So I'm going to have to play it regardless. You can keep yours. I'm all good with that. I can't take that risk because then she's double bluffing him and he's like, oh no, I better make another plan because she is actually not an option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think she just left herself be really, really vulnerable by going along with that plan. I think that she should have maybe had a second thought about like what her role would be. And like, I would just be so paranoid being like, I don't know. I think that there's so few people here that are left to vote for. I just want to secure my safety. Let me just secure it. And maybe say to Cody that like, yeah, I'm going to follow through with it, but then don't. I don't know. I just don't think I would have gone along with it personally.
Yeah. So a couple of comments here. Jay first saying, see, Chris, Cody is more brilliant than you thought. So a little bit of background there. I've been saying throughout the season, like, listen, Cody's a great character. I don't know if he's the strategist there. I've always said Jesse's the real strategist for me between the two. Now, obviously, they do talk to each other a lot and they make decisions together. But clearly, Cody's got some chops. But I do still think Jesse is the better player between the two of them. But there's a question that Dolores asked earlier here where she says, so I was talking to someone who said that Jesse should have used the Cody idol and saved Cody instead of Owen. I don't agree. What do you think? And for that very reason, I don't agree with this. I think Cody should always have gone, because even if Cody wasn't, in my mind, the better strategist between the two, he was the most out there one that people saw. So he may have gotten a lot of the credit for some of the hard work that Jesse did behind the scenes, because Jesse is the kind of player that sort of works in the shadows as well.
Yeah, I think that this whole thing went down was because he wanted to take out Cody, because Cody was kind of emerging as
A front
in
runner.
the exactly in the eyes of the jury, a front runner. And so I think that that's why he made the move. He didn't want Cody to have this flashy move taking out Carla. Like, he didn't want him to have that at all on his resume. So using his own idol on himself, I mean, I guess it could be considered flashy, but it doesn't. I think his objective was to take his biggest threat out of the game when he had the chance, and using his own idol with it. Like, it's pretty savage. So yeah,
the biggest risk for Jesse here, and I can see why someone may say, oh, you still needed Cody, is because there is still 5 people left in the game. Jesse is just voted out as right-hand person, so there's no guarantee that Carla's going to stay true to him, because he also betrayed Carla at the end of this episode a little bit by doing the move on Owen, getting Carla to play her idol. So she might feel hard done by that. So the question is, who does Jesse trust to get him to the end?
I don't think he cares. That's the thing, because the whole game, like when he was with Dwight, he didn't care about losing Dwight, didn't care about losing Noelle, didn't care about losing Cody. Like, he doesn't care about losing these
people. He plays ballsy.
Yeah,
ballsy game.
He's just like, I'll figure it out. And so we know that he's going to either win immunity or use his idol to get himself to 4. And if he doesn't win, I guess that's another immunity.
Fire making challenge. Yeah.
Like he wins fire. He does, like, the only way he's going to be taken out right now is if he loses fire, right? So
the fire making challenge, what you're saying, is counterproductive, because they brought it in for players like Cody, but it ended up sending Cody home because of it now. So it's kind of counterproductive to why they brought it in the first place.
I mean, I never liked the fire making challenge, but now it's part of the lore of Survivor that I have to like think about it. But I mean, they brought it in to get, who was it? Ben? Was it Ben to win?
Ben.
Or was it
Ben? Yeah, Ben was the first player to ever win a fire making challenge and then go into the end to win. And it was like, what happened? Because he lost the immunity going into the end. And that's why a lot of people still, to this day, very much dislike Ben. I don't dislike Ben. I dislike the producers for bringing that in the first place. That's my take on it. But yeah, it's just, again, I've never been a fire making challenge fan. Still am not a fire making challenge fan at this stage. But yeah, interesting things happening here, because at this point, that's when Jesse says, listen, this is a great move for Cody, but this will also be Cody's winning move if he takes out Carla in this fashion. So he goes and makes a different plan, and he talks to Owen and Gabler and Cassidy about swapping the vote and making sure that Cody actually goes home, and then also playing Cody's idol to make Carla cagey and play Carla's idol. So it's a brilliant plan. Not only will they be taking out the biggest threat in their minds at this point in the game, but they'll also be making sure there's no idols in their mind going into the final 5 scenario, leaving Jesse with all of the power.
Yes, no, exactly. Like
I almost quoted Kanye, and then I just realized that might be controversial. No one man should have all this power.
I was wondering, like, what did I say? Something I said. So I think that, like, it was just so. It was really flashy for the jury, and they're like, Jesse did that. Like, no matter what Jesse has done to all these people, I think the boldness and the just overtness of these moves that he's making, that people are just going to want to reward him. We know that at this point, like, Noelle is not going to be pissed at him anymore at all. We thought for a moment maybe Cody might have a little bit of vim for him, but it seems at the end like he was fine with it. And I think that if we see him play a little bit more and do some more of these savage moves, that Cody will be like, yeah, man, he just outplayed me. So I feel like he's just making these moves in front of the jury that just look so good and make people look so not part of it. Like, they just don't know what's going on. And Carla, for the first real time, she looked like she had absolutely no idea what was going on, and that's why I think that her win equity is really plummeted.
Yeah, I don't think it looked good on Carla by the end of this episode at all. I would put Cassidy ahead of Carla, even if they were to go into a final scenario at this stage, because at
Yeah,
least Cassidy was in on the plan. But
yeah.
it looked impressive. I don't think Cody took this as badly as some people online seem to think he took it. Like, yes, it obviously shocked him because there was a lot of talk, and it broke my heart a little bit to see this happening as well, because I'm like, I love Cody and Jesse as a duo. They're kind of like the Stephen Fishback and JT of the new era, the Wendell and Dom, the two people that's going to go all the way to the end, and then they're going to duke it out and let the best man win. But Jesse had to make a very hard decision here, and this is why I love Survivor. This is why Survivor is such a great show, because at the end of the day, Survivor at its core is an individual game. It's anybody but you. That strategy has won Sandra twice. She's won the show twice on that. And Jesse got to the point where he was like, I've got a friendship here, which I hope I have this friendship after the game, but I may have to cut this person today because I have to bring back that money, baby. I have to bring it to my family. This could set us up for life. And he said here, some people are playing this game for the experience. He's there for the money. The experience comes second. And it made me think, if I was to ever to play Survivor, I think in the back of my head, I would go for the experience. I would want to win. I'm a super competitive person, but there's different levels to this thing. There are people out there that play this game that need the money. They need it. Like, the money could change their life. It could put them in a position where they, I'm not rich by any means, but I feel like for me, I'm kind of content with what I've achieved in life up until this point. Could be a hell of a lot worse than what I'm at currently, where some people, they have got it a lot worse and they need that money. And that's the people that are that hungry for it. They're always going to, I think, have that little bit extra in the tank when it comes to making these kind of decisions, where maybe if I was him, I couldn't do that to someone. I don't know.
I mean, I definitely don't know. I think, though, I'm so competitive.
I'm very competitive as well. That would be the one thing, the competitiveness.
I don't like, even knowing that there's $1 million on the line and the win. Like, I've been pretty ruthless for like free. Okay, so like, I just wonder what would happen if I had like real stakes and real potential friendships. And I think that I'd
they're not a friend of yours. They're not a friend of yours.
Exactly. I didn't know them 24 days ago. Like,
exactly. I was just going to say, they're not a real friend of yours if they can't understand the move after the game. And I think Cody will understand it. Like, even him at the end saying, screw you, Jesse, he was laughing. He was joking. Like, he's already, like, it's going to sting, and he's going to go back to Ponderosa, and he's going to sit on that, and he's going to be like, man, I thought he was my amigo. I thought we were going to go to the end. We're best buddies. But Cody, to me, seems like the guy who understands that there's bigger things in life and that this is a game at the end of the day. And I think Jesse and Cody, I'll call it, I think they're going to be friends for a very long time after this game, because I think that's a true friendship that developed. But someone who holds this against you afterwards and don't want to be your friends, they take it to that personal level. They're not a true friend of yours in any case, because they don't. True friends want their friends to succeed. That's how I look at it.
Well, I mean, I can understand the sting. And I actually 100% agree with you, because if I can't get over the sting, it's because I didn't really care for you. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think that I think I have to agree with you there.
And it's also the way you make you feel, right? It's also the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's also the way they make you feel, right, Chantal? Because maybe if they voted you out and you didn't really care for them, you may have cared for them. But if they're sort of pushing it in your face, shoving it in your face, and they're the ones like, this friendship didn't really mean anything to me, different story if they were just game botting you the whole time. But then they were not a friend of yours in any case. In Jesse's case, I can tell that Jesse, when he was doing it, that little look he gave, like, it was he gave us like, oh no, I can't believe I'm about to just dash this guy's dreams, and then he stands up and he plays Cody's idol. This is you cannot get a better Survivor moment than this. He's just looking at him. He's like, I can't believe I'm going to do this to this guy. He doesn't deserve it, but I do want to win this money. But I really care for him as well. You could see the conflict in his face as he was playing the move.
Yes, I mean, that is like Jeff when he's saying like, this is what Survivor's about. Like, this is what Survivor is about. Like, these moments where it's like, your desire to win has to go against your morals or your friendships or what you would do in a regular situation. Like, it's just, the stakes are so much higher. This is what Survivor is all about, making those really tough decisions. And I really hope it wins in the game.
Yeah, same. Is there anybody outside of Jesse right now that would be a satisfying winner for you, and you could still be like, oh, this is an okay season? Or are you all in on Jesse? It has to be Jesse, otherwise the season is it's not
I
as
think
great.
it's all in on Jesse, or the season's going to be a little bit of a womp womp. If Carla hadn't fallen from grace these past couple episodes, I could say Carla would have been somebody I'd be pretty stoked with winning, but she just fumbled the bag these last couple episodes that like I just don't see her being able to win. But up
Yeah.
until maybe 3 episodes ago, Carla would have been my second for sure. Like it was always Carla and Jesse and Owen. Sorry, Carla, Jesse, and Cody that were getting fives like for a lot of the season. So yeah, she's not getting a 5 this week. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Georgette here says, Chris, you need to apply for Survivor soon. Can't wait to see how that plays out. Well, big news is that I will be moving to Australia in the
Yeah.
coming months. So that's going to be exciting. So that means I may be able to apply for 2 different Survivors. Survivors of Africa, which I'm still a citizen of, doesn't cast me in the near future, then maybe you see me on Australian Survivor rubbing shoulders with the king of the jungle, Luke Toki, in the future. Who knows, Chantel?
I mean, it's really funny because my parents never got married, and so my dad though is a British citizen. He has a British passport. Like all my family in London, like or in England, like
Survivor UK.
so. Well, I don't know if this is upside for UK, but I'm like Big Brother UK is coming back, and I'm like I would love to be on Big Brother UK as well. I've watched that. Maybe even before I watched, no, not before, but I've watched a lot of seasons of Big Brother UK. And so
Yeah.
I'm working right now to get my British passport because like I'm not allowed to get it born out of wedlock, with these archaic rules of the Nationality Act. But I'm really trying to get it so that I could be able to apply for some of these British shows.
That'd be amazing. Well, imagine this. I could potentially, suddenly, if I go live in Australia, a whole different world of opportunities to get onto reality TV opens up for me. You've got Canadian citizenship already. You get the British one, so you can potentially do Big Brother, Survivor over there. You've got a few different options. So who knows? You guys might see one of us one day pop up, and you never know with the way that podcasting is working now and a lot of different podcasts being out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a true fans versus favorite season in the future. And in my opinion, a true fans versus favorite season.
Podcasters versus players.
But the podcasters versus the players.
Yes.
Australian Survivor, let us go. Survivor South Africa, let us go. I think it'll be a lot of fun if you get to see the likes of myself, Chantel. We, pay, enough money to Shannon to go on because I know she doesn't want to do it. So just pay her, get Shannon on there.
I can convince Shannon to go on, I think.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It would totally be a lot of fun. And I feel like when I looked at the application for Australian, The Amazing Race, I feel like you could be a British citizen as well. So I feel like it also opens up a lot of doors having my British passport. So I'm working on that right now. So those doors are open because okay, I love Canada, but it's not competitive in Survivor and all that stuff. And they didn't cast any Canadians on this season. So let me just go over to the UK and let's just play over there.
So Jay here says, best moment of Survivor in 10 seasons. So what would that take us back to? Survivor season 33? And trying to think of a bigger moment. I think for me personally, and it's because I'm such a big, I think people hate this about me probably by now because I'm so predictable, but I'm a massive Tony Vlachos fan. I was a day one Tony Vlachos fan, right? So for me, even before he came back to Winners of War, even when he went out first in Game Changers, I remained loyal to Tony because I really, really enjoyed him. And I also, by proxy of that, really enjoyed Cops Are Us. So for me, the biggest moment probably was the fire making between Sarah and Tony and seeing Tony take her out and the emotion that went with that. That was probably the biggest moment for me. But this, from the new era, 100%, maybe a close second or a distant second because Tony's just got such a place in my heart, But it's definitely up there. It's definitely a noteworthy moment, I think, in the show's history.
I can't even think of one right now. This was just so flashy. I'm kind of thinking, though, that, it's because we're in this new era. I don't even really remember the old seasons. You know what I mean? I'd have to do a rewatch because the speed and the pace of it, it's just so not Survivor like I remember.
It's a different show.
It's a completely different show. And so I don't really see them correlating. And so like it's just like a distant memory, like Survivor of long ago. So
Yeah.
honestly, I'd have to like go and just remember each of these seasons to be able to
It's kind of like when you
that.
it's kind of like when you know, don't see a friend for 10 years and you were great friends in high school and you hung out and you were on the same wavelength, but then 10 years later you meet up somewhere again and you're like, there's something familiar, there's familiarity there about who they are, but they're different. They're a different person now. They've moved on with their lives. They're doing different things. It's kind of like that. That's how I see Survivor. Like there's that sense of familiarity, you know, in it. But we all know deep down it's a different show. But I think for
It's a
me,
different show.
with the last 3 seasons, I've gotten to a point now where I'm starting to embrace the change. Not to the sense where I'm like a cheerleader for the change, not for the sense that it's like, Jeff, just continue to go ham with this. But I'm like, I can see some positives with it as well. Any of the merge sections of the game now, we don't see one tribe dominating as much anymore. And I think that's got to do with the fact that the pre-merge takes 2 seconds to get past and people don't really get those deep connections and bonds like they used to back in the day, which makes for
Exactly.
less predictable. It makes for less predictable gameplay at the merge because different people will jump ship and jump across. And in that sense, I was actually thinking about it. Should Jesse's win or any of the new school players' win be seen as a harder win in the sense that
no, I don't think it's harder. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Jesse. This is a fantastic move. Like I think that
yeah.
you've played phenomenally, but I just don't see it the same as a 39-day season
So
when
let
it's
me
2 tribes to
clarify.
3 tribes and like all that stuff. Like
Yeah. Let me clarify what I mean by that. I think physically, emotionally, you know, everything was more demanding in the old school Survivor because it was a lot longer, and the more time you spend out there, the harder it is mentally to stay in the game. But what I meant by that is the strategic part of the game. I think has become very difficult because it's so fast pacing, because you can't trust anybody. Alliances are flipping and flopping back and forth. I think there was certain elements in the game in the old school where you could predict it and you could ride the wave with an alliance, and you knew, okay, if I get in with this group, I probably will get in a position where then I need to make some moves towards the end. But in this one, I feel like it changes. Like, you know, today North can be North, tomorrow South is South, and then South is North and North is South. Like it's there's also all these different elements that are being thrown into the game that is like luck based, that it makes it really difficult to get to the end game strategically, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like in that
agreed.
sense, it's kind of ramped up the difficulty of the game strategically.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's less. It's not as easy for you to be able to maneuver yourself and get yourself to the end game just using strategy. Definitely, because there's
Mm.
just these booby traps that come in just to screw everything up. So, yeah, I agree that it's more challenging to win in the new era strategically, but I don't think that the strategic gameplay is very strong in this new era for the exact same reason. So, that's why for me, what I've noticed is that I just watch it as a viewer now. Before I used to be like watching the strategy of it, like really deep entrenched in it, and like what should this person do, and what should this person do, and what should this
Yeah.
person do. That's how I used to watch Survivor. Like I was watching a game of chess, and how are people moving their pieces, and like, what would they do? I would be able to predict what they do, and I like being able to predict what they do because
Mm.
that's how I enjoy watching strategy. And so I find that like I can't really predict watching
And you can put yourself
strategy.
also in their shoes. If you could predict what they do and you can follow their strategy, you could be like, "Oh, what would I have done in that case? Oh,
Exactly.
would I have been able to overcome what Jesse overcame this last episode?" type of thing. And I feel like Jesse is the closest thing that we've had to that in a while when it comes to
Mhm.
actually taking a journey with someone. And that's my only, you know, sort of guess criticism of the editors because they have made a considerable move since 42 to show more people. I think they really heard the backlash of 41, but continue to encourage, even if these players are not good at giving you what you want, you know, because that's sometimes what producers say. Well, they were just not that charismatic or they just didn't tell us about their story. Let them know, listen, if you want to get an edit, you better tell us what the hell you're thinking. Because otherwise, guess what? You're going to get a purple edit, even if you win. Be honest with the players. Tell them this. Be brutal so that they know, oh, shit, I need to tell them what I'm thinking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't enjoy the surprise. Like, okay, it was an awesome surprise when Jesse was like, "I actually am the one that has Janine's idol." Like, okay,
That was a
fine, we
cool
get that
moment.
surprise. There was a couple other ones. I'm like, I want to watch the gameplay. Why can't I? Couldn't I have seen this last week's episode.
This year one with the phrase, and it's like, oh, actually, I need to say this phrase. That was a pretty cool. If it's not game breaking, like every now and again, that's cool. I like the fact going into tribal council, there was the suspense in this episode of did Cody give the idol back or didn't he give the idol back? So I was like sitting there thinking, I need to see what's going to happen. Does Cody have the idol? And that was cool as well.
True. So, I mean, obviously it works sometimes, but I found a lot this season is that like they're just waiting for the surprise element when sometimes I want to follow the story element. And so, I mean, they just have to figure out their balance, I think. But sometimes it's really heavy handed where I'm just like, we could have seen this last week. We did not need to save this. I think the one that I'm talking about specifically was whether or not Carla, when Sammy told Carla about the vote that was flipping right before tribal. It was apparently like 10 minutes before tribal. And then we just get a little moment of it the next episode.
Yeah, I don't like that. Don't like that. Anything strategic and anything about who's going to get voted out, show us that. I don't like to be blindsided about the vote because I want to be in on it.
Exactly.
It's one of the reasons why at one point I'm kind of off the Big Brother train in recent seasons because I feel like, funny enough, Big Brother hasn't evolved enough and it's made the game a bit predictable in some ways. For the US, Canada is still amazing. But the thing that I loved about Big Brother back in the days, you could see the votes come together. You could see people, how the strategy was working and how people were going to get voted out. And that to me is exciting to watch. I want to be a part of that when it comes to Survivor as well. And there's some of the international versions of the show, Survivor South Africa, for instance, that shows you that. They show you how the plan comes together. I want to quickly go into, just towards the end here, I want to go into our teams and just for those that are following along for the season, you'll see that I am down my second last person. Cody has fallen.
Oh,
he was my hope. He was my only hope going into the end here that I could still beat Jake. Now I've got Owen going up against a heavy hitter list of Jesse. Jesse was Jake's first pick of the season from memory. Amazing. First or second pick of the season. So he had a very good. Owen was my first pick of the season.
Me too.
And that's all worked out for me. But Gabler, Carla, and Cassidy is still in his team as well. And then on the points, it's been very competitive throughout the season, actually. We've got Jake sitting on 349.5. I'm sitting on 321.5. So it's still within shooting distance. But I've lost the biggest point getter of the season in Cody. He had 90 points. He nearly cracked 100 points on his own. He nearly has a third of my points.
What points are you giving out? Do you know offhand?
Yeah. I'll bring it up for you so you can see. I've been using Drew's spreadsheet. Thank you, Drew. The real mastermind. Go check out Angel Cake Entertainment for any challenge content. We had for confessionals 1 point, team challenges was 3 points, individual immunities 5 points, making the merge 5 points, successful advantage plays 5 points. Finding an advantage 3 points, votes against you minus 0.5 for each vote against you. So there's a little bit of a counter to that. Runner up gets 25 and the winner gets 50. And then there's bonus categories for most confessionals, most individual immunity wins, most advantages found, and least votes casted against you, all for plus 25 points. So it's looking very, very bad for me towards the end here because
he's going to shoot up quite a bit.
yeah. I don't think there's much hope. Jake is doing a really good job on this front, and it would be the first draft that I'm going to lose. So maybe it's good for the ego in quite a while because I think I won the last one we did together for the Challenge USA, and then I won the Survivor South Africa one with Zoe and Richard. So I went 2 in a row, and then now Jake is just coming in and humbling me.
I mean, you're being slaughtered right now. You probably haven't checked out the challenge one, but you're in second place. Drew is demolishing us. He didn't even mention his points because it's such a wide gap.
Is that embarrassing for us? He's like,
I'm just not going to say how many points I have today.
Rumor Mill's going to be out there. Chris got out of it before he was embarrassed. He's like, I'm not part of the podcast this season. No, I look forward to it. Like, listen, I've got a bit of catching up to do on the challenge, the proper season 38, but I will catch up on it, and then maybe at some point towards the end of the season, I'll jump on and have my thoughts about the season as a whole, because I have enjoyed it up to where I've watched, but with so many things going on, I've fallen about 2 or 3 episodes behind, so I've got a bit of catching up to do from my end. Yeah.
All good. You're obviously welcome anytime.
Yeah, well, Chantel, that's it for this episode. I think we covered as much as we could. Let people know, where can they find you? What are you working on? And are you going to be taking a little bit of a break at the end of the year? It's been a long year of podcasting.
Yeah, a lot's been going on podcast wise. Right now I'm still finishing up. I don't know why we watched it, but the Real Love Boat is that the last thing that I'm covering right now. So the Real Love Boat is still going strong. Obviously Sarah from Nerdtainment and I are doing a power rankings, or like a rating of the final 5 players on Monday. So we'll be doing that before the finale on Wednesday. I might go to a finale party on Wednesday, so I'm not sure if I'm going to go to one or not. But if I do not, then I will be doing obviously the challenge after the episode with, well, who knows what I'm going to do. Well, it might actually be postponed and pushed just because I don't want to get spoiled. So I might have to watch Survivor Live instead of doing the challenge. So just, go to Realness with 3 S's. Ring that bell so you'll be notified when we go live, just in case I change up the schedule. But what I'm going to be covering in the new year, I think that I'm going to cover Traitors. Did you see Traitors US that came out, like the cast?
Yes.
And
I'm
so-
very interested in it as well. I'm like in two minds about it, but it just depends on time and if I can get the time to do it. But I kind of want to cover it as well because it's a heavy hitter cast. So
heavy hitter cast, and I was like, okay, well, if this is coming out, let me go watch Traitors. So Traitors Australia has a full season that's already out. So I'm on episode, I think 6 or 7 of that. I just started yesterday, and I'm on episode 4 of Traitors UK, both of which have been fantastic. And I'm just trying to think, I'm like, I want to do something a little bit different with how I cover it. I haven't figured out how yet, but I do want to cover Traitors US. And so that's definitely something that would be new coming to the roster. So look out for that.
It's a big demand from Christian for me to cover Tough as Nails. He mentioned that on my Amazing Race recap with Michelle this week as well. So yeah, it's a bit hard at this stage. I've got to see what I do, when I do it, and how I do it. But I will consider Tough as Nails as well. I'm assuming Christian, there isn't many. I'm assuming there's not many people. Christian, is there many people who cover Tough as Nails? Because I feel like maybe there isn't as many people that cover it at the moment.
Rob as a podcast covers it.
Yeah. Georgette says the Traitor is a great game. Yeah, it's fun.
So fun.
I really enjoyed the Mole as well, by the way.
It's
I know
better
you
than
and
the
Zoe.
Mole in the sense, sorry to cut you off, but I love the Mole, but I enjoyed the old school version of the Mole a bit better. The Netflix version, in my opinion, everybody was just too glossy and pretty. I just wanted to see a little bit more edge in the different players, but I love the season. I enjoyed it, even though I guessed who the Mole was episode 2, but like it was still an enjoyable season. But with Traitors, like it is intense. Like, and I thought that I wasn't gonna like knowing who the Traitors were, but like I am like with the Traitors. I'm like, oh my god, get them out. Like it's so intense and good and so much strategy. And I love seeing their thoughts on like how they're going to manipulate other players into thinking that. Anyways, it's great. So
it is good. I enjoy it as well. Yeah, I think for me, and it's just a completely different show. Sorry for those that are only here for Survivor, and if you want to jump out, I fully understand. But I think the one thing with Traitors that got me on the Australian version, because I haven't seen the UK one, is I feel like there needs to be like an additional stake or something around the challenges, because the challenges to me it's kind of like I just want to get past the challenges. They're boring. Yeah, whatever. Let's get.
You're right. I didn't really care about the challenges either. I did care about the challenges that came into play for. It's not called an exemption, but safety or whatever it is. Those obviously the stakes were a little bit higher there. So I agree with you though. I definitely would go and get a glass of water every time a challenge came on because I'm like, I don't need to watch this.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. But yeah, everybody go check out Chantel's channel for any reality TV content coming up in the next week. Reality Realness with 3 S's, that is. Chances are at some stage you'll see myself and Chantel on a podcast together talking about one of these shows in any case. And then on this channel, we've got the finale coming up for Survivor this week. I am going to finish off the Challenge Australia as well. So the Challenge Australia, Chantel, has been horrible. It's officially cancelled. Officially, I don't think it's coming back.
I was like, I think I've watched up to episode 6. I was doing watch parties, and then I just kind of forget about it because, like, I think that I would have enjoyed it more if they were creative and they had their own challenges because
they were repeating it.
They're all repeats of like both 38 and of USA, and so. I'm just like, this isn't. It's just
It
not.
was
It's
done
not
on the
good.
cheap. It was done on the cheap. They tried to save production cost. I think the main production team basically carried the whole thing cost wise because they wanted to make this happen. And then in Australia, they made the mistake of choosing the wrong cast to go on it as well. I think that just didn't relate to the
Patchy
people that they're
people,
trying to.
come
Yeah,
on.
they didn't
Evil
relate to the
Survivor
people
people.
that they were marketing it to. They were marketing it to the Survivor fans basically in Australia, and there were only 2 Survivor players on there, so that didn't help. And
Who I
then
loved, and then I was like, and then I'm like, well, Brooke is with Batchy's side. I'm like, oh, great. And
Yeah.
then John's gone. Like, okay,
Yeah,
bye.
so it didn't really help. But yeah, I'll be back. I'll cover with Kahuna the end of the Challenge Australia. I'll also, at this point, it is confirmed that I will have both the winners for an interview as well for the Challenge Australia as well, which will be exciting because both those winners will be taking part in the global showpiece of the Challenge. So it'll be interesting to get their thoughts prior to that hitting our screens later on in next year. We don't know the time for that yet. But yeah, so much going on. Consider subscribing to the channel. That really is the biggest way that you can show support. It's absolutely free. I hope we earned your subscription today by giving you some quality content here for an hour and a half. Put a like on it, hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live for future content. And I promise, I'm hearing you, Christian Gell, on the Toughest Nails thing. I'm hearing people when they say to me, cover more shows. I'll do my best to try and do that, even if it looks a little bit different, because sometimes I may have to look at shorter form content, I think, as well, which will help me fit things in. But hopefully that will still give people an opportunity to hear my thoughts on some of the shows that they love to watch, and we can watch it together. And on that note, thank you everybody in the live. It was great having you here. You guys were awesome, and we'll catch you next week for the finale. Bye.